To the political parties who are seeking black votes, Republicans, Democrats, let me give you a little bit of an insight as to the reasons why you're seeing the changing in demographics, the changing in voting patterns, and some of the polls that you've been seeing lately. Well, Black America, we have been largely falling off of the Democratic Party. Why is that? Well, let me explain some reasons why. And this video is meant as educational. It's just from my point of view. You can disagree. It's cool. But I'm just informing you as to what I'm saying. Okay. Joe Biden, Joseph R. Biden, he promised a lot of things when he was president. One was police reform. And now throughout the country, you're seeing police reforms that were passed during, the 2020 demonstrations, or as a result of it, you're seeing a lot of those things being rolled back. You're seeing officers, like, for example, Christopher Burbank, being hired by neighboring sheriff's departments in Washington State after they were involved in what happened to Manny Ellis. Now, that officer has resigned, we find out recently, but the thing is that still happened. That still occurred. I just want you to understand, every time something like that happens, it affects the black community. Every time you have a police officer who gets probation instead of getting locked up when they take a black person's life, whenever you get a police officer who is a predator, a lot of school resource officers are predators. Well, Joe Biden hasn't even addressed that, despite the fact that on the Department of Justice's own website, there's a study from 1995 discussing how many predators was in law enforcement even back then, and yet Joe Biden doesn't even want to address it to protect children. He didn't even do anything to the officers involved with Uvalde. Then you look at the case of reparations. Well, reparations, you look at the Pew Research Center in terms of Black American views towards reparations. In fact, I think that's the exact title of their polling. What they found is that it didn't matter if you're a black Democrat, black Republican, black liberal, black conservative, communist, socialist, young, old. It didn't matter your social class. Didn't matter anything. You wanted reparations. The only thing that we didn't agree with in terms of Black America is what form it takes, but we wanted it. Now, if you look at the polls even deeper in that same polling from the Pew Research Center, what you'll find is that the Black Americans who wanted cash consider being black more important. So I want you to understand, when Joe Biden and when Democratic Party play games like they did in California and New York and Chicago and so many other places, and you don't pay reparations, but at the meantime, you're taking in so many people who are not black. And if someone has a problem with me saying that, here, let me explain to you why I say this. Why we have a problem with so many people being rushed into black communities. It's because America is a large place. If you're telling us that black people are so down bad financially, why would you rush a bunch of people who already don't have anything into a neighborhood that's already down bad financially? That is done intentionally. If you want to give these people the best shot possible, why not move them to Beverly Hills? Makes sense, right? But you don't do that because you don't want the poor Mexicans in your neighborhoods. See, we know that about the Democratic Party because of the LA City Council. The LA City Council and Nuri Martinez made it very clear about what types of Mexicans they want in their neighborhoods. They made it very clear. In fact, Nuri Martinez said it. She said, those are the ugly Mexicans, the Oaxacans, the black Mexicans, the ones that you can that could actually pass for black. See, I've been to Mexico. I'm gonna tell you, some of those folks look just like me, blacker than me actually. I ain't gonna even lie. My wife's grandmother is blacker than my grandmother. I'm gonna say that again. My wife's grandmother has an afro. An afro. Skin that's almost as dark as mine. Big old bell pepper nose. Talking about some, see? Yeah. So those are the types of Mexicans that Nuri Martinez doesn't like. See, I want you to understand, that's what's going through the minds of the black community. We're not saying that all Mexicans are racist. We're saying there's a problem, whereas all these people are being rushed into our communities. We consider some of the Mexicans, some of the Hispanic people allies, some of them. But I want you to understand, there's a language barrier, one. Two, all the areas that you stole from Mexico, I mean, don't get me wrong, you did compensate them, but all the areas that you took from Mexico, you don't rush them there. You rush them to Chicago, which don't make no sense. Why would you take people who are probably used to a warmer climate and put them in Chicago in the winter? And then when you look at the black community here, right, in places like Chicago, so many resources have been taken from black people and given to people who aren't even citizens. And that's a problem for black people, because for the longest time, we were treated like non-citizens and we had to fight for this stuff. And a lot of the community centers, a lot of the old schools, the libraries in New York, Chicago, LA, I mean, you name it, all over the country, those are being reopened for people who are not citizens. Those are being reopened to give resources to people when we've been asking for the same resources for the longest time. We're not saying don't help those people. We're saying, hey, white people, we know you got the resources. Why are you not rushing them into your communities? You're doing that as a means of keeping us down, because you understand that we grew by 11% in the past 20 years. That was also according to the Pew Research Center. They put that out, I want to say August or October of last year. The black American population has grew by 11%, despite abortion, despite all the police shootings, despite on black crime, which is not really even a thing. But despite all that, we still grew by 11%. That's why you're doing this, Democratic Party. That's your version of racism. See, the Republicans, we understand they are racist. We understand Donald Trump is racist. We get it. But you have your own version of racism, right? In which you use proxies, the same way as Joe Biden is using proxies over the Middle East and Europe and all over the world. You don't think he does the exact same thing here? Speaking of Joe Biden, that's another reason why we are off the board there, because of what's happening in Gaza. The first major religious organization to take a stand against this stuff in America was the AME Church, the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the first one. And it is the same case when you saw in Vietnam. I mean, you saw a lot of things. But with Iraq and Afghanistan, there's a lot of propaganda. Most of Black America fell for it, because again, that was the budding internet age. We hadn't had something like WikiLeaks until later. WikiLeaks came later and showed us that there was no weapons of mass destruction. There was a bunch of lies. And as soon as Black America found that out, you saw how we swung. You saw how we swung with Ukraine. You saw how we swung with Israel. The thing is that we don't want wars. We don't want us funding other conflicts. We don't want us funding other things when we need stuff right here. You don't want to pay reparations, but you want to pay it to every other group out there. You know, Republicans are no better. Don't get me wrong. Republicans, you guys have just lost your minds. If you think that a large swath of Black America is gonna come over to you and not just be political free agents, just go with whoever sounds the best at the time. Be it Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Green Party, Transhumanist, I don't care who it is. Whoever sounds good at the time. Whoever's going to give us the most money, the most checks, the most benefits. The first group to give us an anti-black hate crime bill, an actual hate crime bill, since we are the #1 targets of hate crimes in this country, have been since the FBI has been recording. There's a lot of things that we need in Black America, and what you're seeing is we are choosing the couch, man. A lot of us are just dropped out of the political process. Some people will try to shame us and say, oh, our ancestors fought for this and fought for that. They fought for reparations too, but you're voting for people who won't even give it, and you'll sit there and insult people like me who are criticizing them for not doing it. So, you know, this whole thing of you sending political agents or sending friends, family members, and people just trying to shame people, is it working? Look at the polls. Both Democrats and Republicans. Before you take that strategy, go look at the polls. Is it working? I'm here whenever you need me to explain to you how you win Black people back over. I can't speak for every Black person, but I know about some of the issues. So, whenever y'all ready, we will get off the couch. Until then, enjoy your country, because we already built it as Black descendants of American slaves. We've already built it, and we're watching you wreck it in the world. And all we ask for is our chips the same way everyone else got it. That's it.